all Mississippians. You saw today the former director of the Department of Human Services, John Davis, was sentenced to 32 years. It's been justice delayed, but not justice denied. In February of 2020, I stood in this courthouse steps with the auditor, and we announced the indictment of 6 individuals to immediately stop Mississippi's most vulnerable population from losing money. I'm proud today to admit that we've been able to stop that, and all of those defendants have currently been held accountable and all have pleaded guilty. And the question that everyone's wondering is what's next. What's important to note, John Davis's testimony in this plea was that he would continue to cooperate, and he's cooperating because there are other individuals that the state and the auditor's office and the federal authorities are interested in. We'll continue to work together to hold all those individuals accountable who you know and don't know who have committed the worst crime ever by stealing from poor people, our most neediest people.
Sure. I'll just say thank you to District Attorney Owens. You know, I'm thinking back to 2019 and 2020 when we discovered this massive fraud scheme. Y'all all know that the only way we get results and that folks are held accountable is if a prosecutor has the courage to step up and charge individuals with crimes. That's exactly what District Attorney Owens did in this case. He had the courage to take on a complex, difficult case, and they did it with incredible skill. Just his decision alone to indict those individuals who we then arrested likely saved the taxpayers millions and millions of dollars of welfare funds, because we know now that more money was prepared to be pumped out to those same individuals who have today pled guilty to fraud. So District Attorney Owens is owed a great debt by the state and the taxpayers for doing his job and doing it well. I can tell you this, on my end, we're going to continue to make sure that this case is thoroughly investigated. As everyone knows, we have turned over every piece of evidence that we have over to federal investigators. Not only that, just in the last 2 weeks, we have assigned another investigator to this matter. We're going to dedicate whatever resources we need to this to make sure that our federal partners have everything that they need. And ultimately, between us and the federal investigators, this case is going to be thoroughly investigated top to bottom.
How important is that cooperation from Davis moving forward and ensuring that you might can get to the same point with other co-conspirators?
What's important to know is as we pleaded people out, the accountant for MEC was pleaded. Brett DiBiase, Nancy knew, Zach knew. We continue to go up the ladder as we identify individuals. It's also important to note this is thousands of hours of investigations before the case came to us from the auditor's office. I certainly want to acknowledge the hard work of our Deputy Chief Jamie McBride in this prosecution, thousands of hours in our office. So we're still looking through records and text messages as we continue to move up. And we also continue to work with the federal authorities from Washington and in Mississippi to continue to move forward. John Davis is critical because the letter continues to move up.
Can you tell me if the individuals that you know the question that I'm about to ask you, if those text messages that have come out recently, are you guys looking at former Governor Phil Bryant as well as Brett Favre?
We're looking at all individuals that have been identified. Obviously, we can't talk about those specific individuals or parts of those investigations, but anybody who has been identified in text messages or in media reports, we're continuing to monitor and research.
Can you clarify the sentence? You recommended that John Davis not serve more time above what he receives in the federal case, correct?
Correct.
Can you tell me what happened in court today to that effect?
Well, again, the counts were approximately 90 years with 32 years to serve. One of the things that's important to us is to make sure he serves as most time as possible. And based on the comparison between the federal and state statutes, we identify he would serve more time in the federal system than the Mississippi system. And in addition, we think it's critical they continue to comply with federal authorities in their current investigation.
So he's going to serve more than 32 years on the two?
He is not going to serve more than 32 years. That will be calculated when he serves by the Bureau of Prisons, the Federal Bureau of Prisons, as opposed to Mississippi Department of Corrections. But then when he gets out, he'll still have the existing time over his head. So as the court mentioned today, if he doesn't pay his restitution or if he violates his probation agreement, he can then return to Mississippi Department of Corrections.
But I believe he's pleading to 2 charges, federal charges. I don't think that will amount to more than 32 years.
I'm not exactly sure the federal charges. We did the state charges today, but I'm sure they will report on that.
So he will serve 32 years in state custody?
No, he would serve. He would be in custody. You can serve state time in federal prison as well, but still be under the state umbrella of time.
And with the state time, will he be eligible for parole?
Yes, he will be eligible for parole at some point in time. These are financial crimes, correct?
Even though he's in federal prison?
Correct. The times will run concurrent with each other. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.